Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to take a deep dive look into all of the news, announcements, and trailers that came out from this past weekend's Star Wars Celebration 2023 in London. Now, before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter and Hive at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. Plus, Force Ghost Conversations is now live on Patreon. And if you're a fan of the podcast and would like to consider pledging your support, there will be a link in the episode description for you to check out the various tiers offered. Finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And this is a really special episode of Force Ghost Conversations, if you ask me. Of course, this is our Star Wars Celebration 2023 recap episode. Wow. That's basically the one word I got to start off this episode off with. Wow. We got a lot of news and information about Star Wars, the future of Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all of it. It got touched upon in some way, shape, or form at this year's Star Wars Celebration. And I had a blast. I hope you did too. For those that were there, I hope you got into all the panels that you wanted to, or at least got to hang out with people, do a meet and greet, get something autographed, buy an action figure, all that stuff. I hope you got to have the time of your life in London. And for those of us at home, I hope that you were able to find some joy, some comfort, some excitement about some of the announcements that came out. Perhaps you enjoyed watching the celebration live stage that they had on YouTube all 4 days of the celebration convention. Perhaps you got to see someone being interviewed that is your absolute favorite actor or creator in the Star Wars universe. Perhaps you got to see one of the incredible panels that were live streamed that you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. There is literally something for everybody at this celebration, and it was a lot. I'm overwhelmed when it comes to Star Wars news. This is usually the part of the show, for those of you at home that may not have listened to Force Ghost Conversations before, where we would run through the news of the last week in our appropriately dubbed Cloud City Gossip segment. We got this whole episode of Force Ghost Conversations is going to be Cloud City Gossip. We have nothing else to talk about in this episode other than news. And I wanted to get this episode out as quickly as I could. I had a grad school class. I had other things going on in my life. I had to I wanted to take some time, right? If you had been following along with CouchCon and all of the activities that we did for Star Wars Celebration, which, by the way, thank you to those that participated in CouchCon, enjoyed our live tweeting, did the watch-alongs with us, came and hang out on our YouTube live streams, our recap streams every day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thank you. It was a blast. I love doing that. I hope to do more stuff like that again in the future. But wow, there is a lot. I wanted it to sink in. I wanted to just bask in the joy and the wonder and the excitement that surrounds Star Wars Celebration. I live on the East Coast, so at least I'm closer to London. I know those on the West Coast that when those early morning panels hit, it was really more early in the morning for you all. Like, we're talking 2, 3 a.m. earlier. I was up at 5 a.m. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And let me tell you what, it's hard enough doing that. Like if I had to wake up I have to wake up at 6:10 most days for my job. And you know what? That's a struggle sometimes, right? It's dark outside, I have an hour commute. It can be hard to get out of the sheets sometimes. I was waking up before my alarm with Star Wars Celebration. I couldn't wait to get in front of that live stream, to get my hands on Twitter, to see what the news of the day was going to be. Looking at the panels that I was anticipating, the people that would potentially come on the live stage. Absolute blast, wonderful time, and my golly, are we fed with news? We were just fed to the brim. And I've got I took notes all 4 days. So this is gonna be probably an extra long episode of Force Ghost Conversation. So I hope you're just ready. Just strap in, pull up a beverage, get some food, get some snacks, sit down and relax. Hope you're in a nice cozy couch, a chair, something like that. Maybe put me on stereo. Don't even put headphones in or something like that. Just put it on the speaker system and just put on some sports in the background. And let's go through everything that came out at Star Wars Celebration. To begin, where else would we start than with the magnificent showcase panel that came out, leading the charge, if you will, for Star Wars Celebration. I was very fortunate enough to have gone to Celebration last year in Anaheim, and I won that lottery. Me and Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations were in that room last year at the Anaheim Convention Center, seeing John Williams perform live, seeing Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor on stage, hearing the Duel of the Fates choral intro, seeing all those trailers that came out, Willow, Andor, The Mandalorian, getting a sneak peek at Skeleton Crew and others. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was a wonderful, wonderful time, and I knew that they would come out just as hard with this next installment of the Lucasfilm Showcase panel. Ali Plum was the host, and it kicked off with Andor, bringing out Tony Gilroy and the cast on stage, including our favorite droid, B2EMO. They said that Andor Season 2 is just the second half of the story, and they're halfway through shooting Season 2 right now, and they hope to wrap by August, which sets them up, if you rather, for perhaps an August 2024 release, as Tony Gilroy speculated on stage. They know where they're going with the story and what they need to do in order to deliver emotionally to have an epic finish. Those in the panel got to see some first look footage for Andor Season 2, including a sizzle reel. But the real thing to note is no Alan Tudyk on stage. Is K2SO going to be in this series? I hope so, because it's going to lead right up to them walking through the door, as they keep saying, at the Ring of Kafrene, right? It's going to end with that opening scene in Rogue One, or at least with Cassian Andor meeting up with Tivik in that pivotal location on the Ring of Kafrene. Look, Tony Gilroy is amazing. Andor Season 1 is spectacular. I've got no quarrels with whatever they're going to do. I trust the creators in this matter. I'm very excited for this show. More news about The Acolyte came out. Leslie Headland came on stage, the showrunner, with a Wookiee Jedi. She even used the phrase "for light and life," which is pivotal in the books. She said that 4 episodes are complete of The Acolyte, and she said it was pitched as Frozen meets Kill Bill. What a combo! Who would ever think about putting those two together and mixing it up into the Star Wars mold of it all? Leslie Headland did. I don't even know what that means. I can't even fathom what that crossover looks like. But I'm going to get an answer pretty soon, at least in 2024, with The Acolyte. She said it was inspired by Kurosawa films such as The Hidden Fortress, which also makes sense. A Wookiee Jedi Master also came out on the stage with her. The name of the Wookiee Jedi, Kelnaka, who is none other than played in the series by Jonas Swatomo, who of course plays Chewbacca in the sequel trilogy and Solo: A Star Wars Story, as well as the Scourge, one of the new villains in the Willow series that came out last year. I'm very glad to see Jonas back in the fold, and he was such a wonderful treat at the live stage over the last couple of days. Amanda Stenberg, one of the leads in the series, came out in Padme cosplay. Lee Jung-jae, another one of the leads in the series, will play a Jedi Master, and he described himself as a fanatic for Star Wars. Exactly what you want to hear. Jodie Turner-Smith will play a completely new character. Daphne Keane confirmed that she gets to wield a lightsaber in the series, and they underwent 3 months of epic lightsaber training for the entire crew. Manny Jacinto will also join the cast, which many of you know him from The Good Place. Jacksonville! I also got to see a clip of The Acolyte for those in the room, which evidently the footage was just spectacular. I expect nothing less. From what I've heard of Leslie Headland's work and the drive that all these people have to make this such a wonderful series, I have no doubt that it will live up to every hype and expectation possible. They're going to be shooting until May, which also leads them to believe a 2024 release date is coming. Moving over to the Mandoverse, starting with The Mandalorian, Kathleen Kennedy brought out Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Rick Famuyiwa to the stage, and they said that the story is starting to culminate. Pedro Pascal was notably not there, but he did send in a video thanking fans. They talked about the storytelling of it all, and how being the helmet being on or off for the Mandalorians is a great piece of storytelling. It was announced that Rick Famuyiwa was directing the last 2 episodes of season 3, which I just got to see the 7th episode, the first one that he directed. Man, can't wait to talk about that one this week. I tell you, woo, doggy, that was a great episode. Rick Famuyiwa knocked it out of the park on that one. I tell you what, folks, if you haven't seen it yet, go do it now, because we're going to be talking about it on Sunday's episode. So get hyped for that one. Rick Famuyiwa said it will bring resolution to The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. Very interesting they used both phrases there. I'm very intrigued as to what that means overall. Maybe that means Boba shows up later on. I need to see Boba Fett in this series. It's been far too long. Give me more Tim Morrison. Give me more Din Djarin as Mandalorian, and put them together and mix that soup together. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see how season 3 concludes for The Mandalorian. Jon Favreau also spoke about bringing Ahmed Best back into the fold as Kelleran Beck from Jedi Temple Challenge, and then incorporating that into actual Star Wars canon lore. He said he was also influenced by the Celebration crowd back in 2019 at Chicago for the 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace panel, which of course had Ahmed Best come on the stage to talk about his role as the pivotal character Jar Jar Binks in that movie, as well as the prequel trilogy, who got a rousing standing ovation. And he was like, who's on the table here that could potentially save Grogu? That guy. That character that was in charge of training and protecting the young users of the Force. A steward of positivity, of goodwill, and of caring for the Star Wars franchise. Couldn't think of a better person to do it, and I second that 100%. Those that were at the panel got to see the beginning of season 3, episode 7, and then they also got invited back that evening to see the full episode at the Celebration stage, and they were sworn to secrecy, which I'm amazed that after 4 days of Star Wars Celebration, all these people seeing the episode early, that I wasn't spoiled whatsoever. I was literally on Twitter all day, 4 days in a row, and I didn't see anything close to a spoiler. No one even did those things that were like spoilers without context thing, which I absolutely loathe. I hate those things. Don't do it. It's still a spoiler if it makes my mind think of how it's connected. It just don't do it. I thought it was incredible, and that shows the power of fandom right there. It is possible not to ruin things for other people. Amazing. They also got a poster. Those lucky people in that room. The Skeleton Crew, the next show, or one of the next shows in the Mandoverse, was discussed on the stage. They said it was in post production, and Dave Filoni described Skeleton Crew as a story about a group of kids in the Star Wars galaxy who go on an adventure that is more than they can handle. The directors for Skeleton Crew were announced, including John Watts, David Lowery, The Daniels, Jake Schreier, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Lee Isaac Chung. Notably in that list, of course, is The Daniels, who just celebrated their or were celebrated for Everything Everywhere All at Once, as they were directors and I believe the writers for that, which they won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. And of course, our very own Bryce Dallas Howard, who has done a lot of work in the Star Wars galaxy to this point with several episodes of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And of course, now she's going to expand to the Skeleton Crew. Jude Law was there, and it's known that he's kind of at least a force sensitive character from some of the footage they showed for those at the convention. Maybe he's a Jedi. We don't know yet. They brought out the kids for Skeleton Crew. Well, at least 3 of them. We don't know how big Skeleton Crew is to this point. The kids' names include Ravi Kabak Conyers, Kriana Crater, and Robert Timothy Smith. And this series will come out in 2023, and you got to imagine this is probably looking for a holiday release there. That'd be my guess, personally. So again, they got to see a little bit of footage for that, and then afterwards they moved on to one of the big things, the Ahsoka of it all. Rosario Dawson was brought out on stage, and they said, this series is coming to Disney Plus this August, which makes me believe that, all right, if you look at the Lucasfilm of it all, what they've got in the pipeline, Mandalorian is wrapping up next week. May 4th is just around the corner, so we got 3 big things coming out for Star Wars at that time. Jedi Survivor comes out, I believe, the week before. On May 4th itself, you've got Young Jedi Adventures and Visions Volume 2. Meanwhile, Lucasfilm will be ramping up its production and marketing for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which comes out 2 months later at the end of June 30th. With that gives them till about mid-August to when Ahsoka comes out. Ahsoka is 8 episodes, so that puts them about in October. I think about November is a great slot in that time frame for Skeleton Crew to come out. Anywho, we got a first look at Sabine, who's of course portrayed by Natasha Leah Bordizzo. They also brought out Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is confirmed to be playing Hera Syndulla. Wow. Can you believe that? More of the Star Wars Rebels crew is now in live action. Of course, we got to see Zeb in a previous episode of The Mandalorian. Chopper was, of course, in Rogue One. Hera Syndulla was mentioned by name in Rogue One. Give me more Rebels. Give me more Rebels. I'm excited to see where this goes. Rosario Dawson even came out and was like, maybe we'll get a second season if this one does well. And they showed a teaser trailer, which I'm going to watch right now. So you're going to get me live reacting to this trailer. I've seen it many times to this point. So I hope that you've seen it too. But if you want to pull it up alongside, here's your chance. So if you pause this episode now, pull up the trailer, Ahsoka teaser trailer from the Star Wars YouTube page. That's where I got it. We can watch along together, but you're going to hear my live commentary as I watch it here. So, okay? I'm going to hit play in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit play. This guy's something dark, yeah. I wonder what this is. Must be like a temple, if you ask me. Maybe it's a gateway to the world between worlds. I don't know. It'll be fascinating. I love the red there on the Lucasfilm when they do the title. There is Sabine. Baylan. For some war, a new beginning. Oh, Chopper. Ooh, we got our two new characters, Shin and Balin. Oh man. Ooh, doggy. Oh, Sabine in live action is incredible. Natasha Leigh Bordozo is going to do such a great job with this. Mon Mothma, Mon Mothma. The back of his head. There it is. Thrawn's return. Woo! Heir to the Empire. She said the words. She said the words. Morgan Elsbeth's back. Is this the world between worlds with Balin? Oh, Hera talking? A lightsaber duel? What in the world is going on? Yeah. Ezra? Oh man, this is warrior, outcast, rebel, Jedi. I am no Jedi though, as she said, so we're gonna have to talk about that one. Hu Yang. Perhaps it's time to begin again. Ahsoka coming to Disney Plus this August. Yep. Woo! That is an epic trailer. I don't know about you guys, but I got chills just even watching that again. Who are these Jedi? Balin or not Dark Jedi, Gray Jedi, Sith, something else? Balin and Shin? What's the deal with that? Also, they said Jedi at the end. That's like in terms of Ahsoka, like outcast, warrior, rebel, Jedi. She said defiantly, "I am no Jedi." Of course, she's in the Mandalorian episode, the Jedi. Oof, this is great! I can't wait for this series. There's just so many connecting ties to what we now know about the Mandalorian. There's ties to Star Wars Rebels, of course. All this stuff, it's coming together, and I can't wait. I can't wait. August can't get here soon enough, if you ask me. Woo! Woo! Just seeing Thrawn. Her saying Heir of the Empire. I'm wearing my Heir of the Empire shirt right now. I didn't plan it to be this way, but it just kind of worked out that way. I love this book. I love this series. In 2016, when Thrawn was announced as the villain for season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, I lost it. I didn't think he'd come back into this new canon. And the portrayal that they did, absolutely excellent. Lars Mikkelsen knocked it out of the park. We may be talking about him later on because we're still on day 1. We're at panel 1. First panel. Anywho, I guess we better get moving along because this is going to be a long episode, like I mentioned. So I hope you're strapped in, folks, because this is going to be a wild ride for sure. Because we're just getting to the big news of the day here. 3 new Star Wars movies were announced to close out this big panel. The first it didn't close out the big panel. We have something else to talk about. I forgot about it. I'm just seeing my notes here and seeing that it goes a little bit longer there. You're getting overwhelmed here with all this already. So James Mangold is directing a Star Wars movie. He's one of the 3 that got announced. Kathleen Kennedy brought them out on stage, these 3 directors, and said, we're going to talk about some movies for a second here, and then drop this big bomb on us. James Mangold's doing a story about the dawn of the Jedi, the first Force user. James Mangold is excellent. I can't wait to see what he does with this role. Obviously, you got to think that means that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is just a spectacular film. Lucasfilm must have loved working with him. It gives me a lot of hope for that movie, and it gives me a lot of hope for this because he came out on stage, guns blazing, if you will, saying that he's going to make a story about the origins of the Jedi and the dawning of the Force set before the Old Republic. He also described it as a biblical epic inspired by the likes of Ben-Hur and the Ten Commandments. And it's also to be set 25,000 years before the events of the Skywalker saga. That alone gets me super excited. It's going to be tied to nothing and everything at the same time. You're going to see the creation of the Jedi. You're going to see the creation of the Sith probably in this time. The first Force user figuring out the Force. Maybe midichlorians get referenced here. Perhaps there's going to be so much more of George Lucas in the DNA of this movie than we ever could anticipate. I'm excited for this one a lot, but frankly, the next bomb that they dropped got me so much more excited than that one. And it's about bringing the threads of the Mandoverse together, if you will. Yes, that means the man in the cowboy hat, Dave Filoni, is finally getting to direct a live action Star Wars film. Yes, the showrunner of The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and now so pivotally involved into the Mandoverse with Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian. Dave Filoni is finally getting to his just due and getting this movie that I can't wait to see together. And it's going to be about this Imperial Remnant versus the New Republic. If you've been seeing what they've been doing on season 3 of The Mandalorian, this is what they're talking about. They're showcasing the New Republic versus these Imperial remnants that are coming together underneath Grand Admiral Thrawn as heir to the Empire. Apologies if you can hear the dogs barking outside. It's full disclosure, it's super hot here where I'm currently at, and they haven't turned the AC on in our apartment complex building, so I have to have some fans running and I have to have the window open at least to let in some of that cool, fresh air from outside as much as I can. But unfortunately, that does mean that sometimes you get exterior noises like that. So if you heard anything, I apologize for that. Back to the Dave Filoni of it all, though. This man's paid his due. And it's time to stop separating animation and live action. Storytelling is storytelling. There's no two ways about it. The story is the story is the story is the story. As George Lucas says in Light and Magic. You can't have one without the other. Storytelling is storytelling. It doesn't matter. But give me this heir to the Empire story, this post Return of the Jedi climactic battle that gives us enough to tie into the Aftermath books, to tie into Shadow of the Sith, to tie into the sequel trilogy. Sign me up for this. I can't wait to see this. And this is quite an experiment, if you ask me, because when has a TV series that has been built up like this, several different shows with running threads through it, culminated in one grand film event? This is an exciting time, and it could lead to many other interesting properties developing because of this. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Dave Filoni, congrats, man. Finally, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy was announced as directing a movie about the new Jedi Order. Post Rise of Skywalker, set 15 years later, it's going to include none other than Jedi Master Rey trading the new Jedi Order and facing new galactic threats. Daisy Ridley was brought back out on stage for this climactic moment to rousing applause from the crowd. And of course, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is the first female live-action director for a Star Wars film, further making this moment extra historic. Very excited about this one because, look, I love The Rise of Skywalker. And I want to see these stories continue. I want to see these characters continue. And I think that a film set all these years later, if you include other characters like Rose, Tico, Finn, and you continue some of those threads that were put up in the sequel trilogy, this can help people to put into context those films better, give more meaning to them, more gravitas, more weight, and perhaps people look at those with different eyes. I felt the same thing happened with the prequel trilogy all those years later when sequel trilogy came out, and Rogue Ones and the Rebels and all that stuff, and it helped people to contextualize those films better and to see how it fit into the grander Star Wars galaxy. Now, it's okay to not like certain things about them, of course, but maybe you go back and you revisit those differently and things hit you differently, or maybe you don't necessarily things that you didn't like before. Perhaps they just you're able to accept them better. And I hope that people are able to, through this film. Now, of course, this film should stand on its own merits. It shouldn't have to do all that stuff. But naturally, by being a film that's set in a certain timeline, you're going to have to pull on things that came before, which is obviously going to be the case here. But I think with all three of these wonderful directors already coming together to do this work, it showcased a lot of positivity on the side of Lucasfilm for these projects, because there's been so much negativity out and about in regards to this process. And now they're finally willing and able to announce these incredible Star Wars stories. They're willing to, you know, go in front of a live audience, a big stage, and say, these are our next upcoming films. Get ready for them. That's absolutely what they needed to do. They came out hot in this panel with that information, and fans were left fed. They were satiated. We got everything we needed out of it. We have a direction. We're exploring different aspects of the Star Wars timeline, and I can't wait. Now, of course, in that same panel, there's one last thing to talk about. James Mangold was left on stage, and they moved on to the Man in the Hat. Yes, the fedora itself, Indiana Jones, who still has a new movie coming out this June. So first, they showcased a new poster for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I think is just spectacular. Be sure to look at that one if you got the chance. Just search that new poster, probably on Google, Indiana Jones new poster, and you'll find it. I think it looks great. Mads Mikkelsen, the villain of the movie, came out. His name's Jurgen Voller. Came out on stage along with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who is Helena, the goddaughter of Indiana Jones. Now, they won't say who her parents are, so that'll be a surprise for the movie. I know there's a misdirect in the trailer itself to watch out for. I don't think that has anything to do with who her father is. They also noted at the live stream for the panel, not the panel, but on the live stage when they were talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, she said it's a very emotional and impactful moment when the parent lineage is revealed. So be sure to look out for that when you see this in theaters that opening weekend. Phoebe says that her character has not seen Indy in years, and they share antagonism as well as several other things in common. So interesting on that one. And if you want to hear the theme for Helena, of course, just go online and search John Williams at the Hollywood Bowl last year, where he played that tune for the first time live. And I think it's rocking. Very femme fatale, just inspired by these great 1940s, 1950s noir stories that, frankly, are right in the timeline for Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny at this point, which takes place in the late 60s, 1969. For those in person, they got to see a new trailer. Also, they got to see 6 minutes of the movie. Wild, right? Pretty epic stuff. And of course, I'm going to cover the trailer right now. So if you got some time, go to Lucasfilm YouTube page, pull up Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny official trailer, and let's watch this bad boy. All right? In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm hitting play right now. All right. Sympathy for the Devil started playing from the Rolling Stones, the classic hit from the same year. Looks like Indy's retiring. Nope, he says right there, I'm retiring. Helena came out to meet him. Ooh, look at that de-aging. Harrison looks incredible. A dial that could change the course of history. We got some information about the Dial of Destiny. Ooh, who are these guys? Who are these bad guys fighting on this train sequence here? Let's go. There's Jurgen Voller. Wow, that I can't with this de-aging. That looks so good. This horse fight, this chase sequence in the New York subway. Oh man, this is incredible. Yeah, what's up with the Dial of Destiny here? Hitler is obsessed with it. Capitalism. Indy in a place he shouldn't be, of course. Ooh. Oh man. Ooh. Of course, that music swelling in the background. All the adventure. They're going underwater. A final triumph of Indy. Sala, of course. Mm. Jonathan Rhys Davies. The Torture with Voodoo. Yeah, every little Temple of Doom reference. Yeah, there's the misdirect. I don't think Basil's her father. Maybe he is. I don't know. He's been looking for this all his life. What is he looking for? Peace? I don't know. Family, relaxation. Yeah. Only in theaters, June 30th. I can't wait for that movie. I love Indiana Jones. I watched a lot of Indiana Jones while I was getting ready for the streams this past weekend. I watched a little bit of Temple of Doom, watched a little bit of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. All fun stuff to get me hyped up for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. And it's interesting, like the Dial of Destiny seems like it's maybe had some time elements to it, some time control. Maybe you can go back in time. The concept of time is clearly evident with the Dial of Destiny, and the fact that maybe you can go back in time and do cool stuff. But that's going to be incredible. I'm very intrigued to see what the actual specifics of the Dial of Destiny are. Sign me up. Sign me up. For those I got to see the 6 minutes of the movie in cinema in the celebration stage, they said it was great. I think they saw that chase sequence in New York City. They loved it. So if the action's rocking, I think the script's rocking. I think the the MacGuffin, the whatever item that they are utilizing as the driving force of this film is great. Then you've got the remnants, the makings of a great Indiana Jones film right there. So all that stuff is great. Of course, the live stream stage was excellent, rocking with a lot of people. Just some highlights from that includes, of course, James Mangold coming out with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Mads Mikkelsen. He said the first 25 minutes is Mangold doing his best to channel Steven Spielberg. They filmed on location in Sicily, Morocco, and Glasgow, or it was all practical, whether it be on location or on a sound stage that they created the sets. So no use of the volume or that type of soundstage stuff. Carl Weathers, of course, came out with Giancarlo Esposito and Emily Swallow to talk Mandalorian. And Giancarlo Esposito said, I've been cooking up some stuff on where Moff Gideon is at this season. And to close out the day, they had a Making of Andor Season 1 panel. And they talked about, of course, how it came together. Nicholas Bertel shared that the first piece that he wrote for Andor was the funeral band. And then everything else came after that. And they shared that the music can never be cynical. And I love that line that they shared there, because Andor, at the end of the day, despite all the darkness and the trauma that they go through, of course, of that 12-episode season, it is hopeful at the end. It is powerful. It is about people rising up from their darkest depths to overcome. They said that the Ferrex warehouse scene from episode 3 was real stuff, not VFX. Tony Gilroy shared that there were 190 speaking parts in season 1 of Andor, which is incredible. And again, they reiterated we're heading to the Ring of Kafrene as the closing point of where season 2 is going. Incredible stuff, folks. Incredible stuff. So that concludes, I should say, day 1 of Star Wars Celebration. Saturday, moving on to that. Again, we're going to be here for a while, folks. So strap in. I've got my Coke Zero here to kind of wet my whistle every now and then as I'll be monologuing a lot in this episode. So get ready for all that. Saturday, Ahsoka panel is really what kicks it off here. Chris Hewitt was the host of this panel, and John and Dave come back out on stage. And they talked about bringing these characters to live action. Jon Favreau said, I knew part of Dave's plan as he started dipping his toe in live action was bringing his characters to live action. Of course, that means the Rebels characters. That means Clone Wars characters. Rosario Dawson, of course, and our great friend Chopper, the droid from Star Wars Rebels, came out on stage. Rosario gave credit to Ashley Eckstein for creating the foundations for the character, including her strength. And they reiterated that while Ahsoka is not a Jedi, she is driven to do good. Ahsoka sees a threat that no one else is seeing, which is Grand Admiral Thrawn. Wow. Within the panel, Rosario Dawson learned to be, she shared, I should say rather, that she learned to be ambidextrous for the role in regards to the physicality of Ahsoka. Wow. Can you imagine that? Having to learn all of that for just, a show? I mean, that's a great life skill overall there. But the time and effort that must have taken place in order to achieve that, just wow. Also, they said that the makeup is now down to 1.5 to 2 hours instead of the full 3. They streamlined processes. They got her new tendrils that are made from that are different from the Mandalorian look. Her leku are longer, and it's kind of used with like a fake skin technology that they printed. It's a little technological. I mean, they really moved their steps forward here when it came to this stuff. Of course, again, Natasha Liu Bordizzo and Mary Elizabeth Winstead came out. They both prepared for their roles respectively by watching Star Wars Rebels, which I certainly hope so. I love the long hair look on Sabine that they gave for this new interpretation of the character. It signals that some time has passed from that Rebels finale. Because if you recall, at the end, she has the kind of like a buzz cut look, if you ask me. It's very short. I don't know. I do love the Hera look, though, especially from that first trailer. Hera is an incredible leader, leading an army, and a maternal figure in the Ahsoka series. That's what Mary Elizabeth Winstead said. In addition, they confirmed that David Tennant is back as Hu Yang, who recorded all of his lines before filming so that the actors would be able to perform off of Tennant's voice, which I found to be very cool. Very cool. It's not often that they do that. Usually that stuff is done later, and they have a temp voice on set. I like it. I like the effort that's being put into the series. Dinah Inosanto, otherwise known as Morgan Elsbeth, also came out on stage. She noted that her infamous, or famous, I guess, fight with Ahsoka in the Mandalorian The Jedi chapter was a 17-hour filming sesh, and of course George Lucas was on set that day. She said that Morgan Elsbeth is loyal to Thrawn, and we will see her in the background pulling some strings. Very excited to see that. So let's talk some of the baddies a bit more here. Ray Stevenson and Ivana Sacco both came out onto the stage for this panel, playing respectively Baylan Scott and Shin Hati, where those villains that are wielding lightsabers that are of like a reddish-orange color. It's not entirely red per se, but it's kind of orangish as well, which leads one to believe of like, what are they doing here? They announced the directors for Ahsoka, being, of course, Dave Filoni, Steph Green, who did work on the Book of Boba Fett, Peter Ramsey, who just did work on The Mandalorian, Jennifer Getzinger, Geeta Patel, and of course, Rick Famuyiwa. To further round out the behind-the-scenes crew, Kevin Kiner is doing the score, which again, another great person I'm thrilled is getting their just time in the sun for Star Wars. Kevin Kiner has been doing incredible work in the Star Wars music world always. I mean, he did the Clone Wars. He did the music for Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels. And now he's finally getting his time in live action. Of course, Bad Batch too. How could I forget that one? Ludwig Göransson even talked to Kevin Kiner about utilizing Ahsoka's theme in The Mandalorian. Now, there was an exclusive trailer for those in the room, or I guess a remix trailer as they've been calling it. And it included the full frontal face of Lars Mikkelsen as Grand Admiral Thrawn. So Thrawn was brought out on stage then. Yes, Lars Mikkelsen brought out on stage to confirm he's playing the character, finally. And they asked him, what makes Thrawn so compelling? And they said, well, it starts with Timothy Zahn's books, of course, Heir to the Empire, that trilogy, that spectacular trilogy that kept the Star Wars fandom alive throughout most of the 90s. And then they said he's like the Moriarty, like the Sherlock Holmes villain, the arch nemesis of Sherlock Holmes. He's like the Moriarty in Star Wars, according to Dave Filoni. And I think that's just the absolute best way to describe Grand Admiral Thrawn in Star Wars. I love it. They said that Ahsoka Season 1 is 8 episodes. And again, Rosario Dawson said, if you like it, maybe we'll see more. So be sure to support. Come on out. Tag them on social media. Hashtag Ahsoka. Hashtag Star Wars. Let's keep the train going. Of course, a lot of people came out into the live stream stage. Leslie Headland talked about the High Republic and the challenge that she has of bringing what's already been designed for the books and bridging it to the Phantom Menace. Dave Filoni got so emotional on stage, got a rousing ovation from the crowd. He said he's a fan and understands fans and the efforts that they make to come to these celebrations, to share their support online, and he tipped his hat to the crowd in a really wonderful moment. Kathleen Kennedy came out on stage to talk about the big announcements from the day before. She said that Star Wars has an amazing mythology with meaning, and they have to make sure it has a meeting, which was a directive straight from George Lucas. So many people came out on stage, of course, from the Ahsoka panel. More from just all over Star Wars: Matt Lanter, James Arnold Taylor, Billy D. Williams, Ming-Na Wen, Andy Serkis, who of course was getting all the time in the sun during this celebration for One Way Out. Wonderful stuff. There was a great High Republic panel, which I'm going to share some news that came out from that. The Young Jedi Adventures series is coming out on May 4th, of course, which takes place during the High Republic. It's going to be more skewed to a younger audience, but you never know. Maybe you enjoy it. I'm definitely going to be looking forward to it and watching all those episodes and talking about them here on Force Ghost Conversations. So get ready for those episodes very soon. They announced a new author for the High Republic series, including Alyssa Wong, sorry. They announced the official title for Phase 3 of the High Republic, called Trials of the Jedi, which is set a year after the fall of Starlight Beacon. The start of this phase will come out in fall 2023, where the Jedi have been recalled back to Coruscant and the Nihil have effectively won. We basically got the titles of all these books that are coming out for the High Republic series in Phase 3. So we've got the titles for them and the authors. I'm going to share them now here. So first, there's The Eye of Darkness by George Mantz, an adult novel. Escape from Valo by Daniel Jose Older and Alyssa Wong, which is a middle grade reader. Another book called Defy the Storm by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland, which is a young adult story. Chronicles from the Oculation Zone by Lydia Kang, which will be in Star Wars Insider. Of course, Cavan Scott will be doing the High Republic Marvel comic line. The High Republic Adventures, that comic line from Dark Horse Comics by Daniel Jose Older, will continue. Another adult novel, Temptation of the Force by Tessa Gratton, will come out in December 2024. The Phase 3 Endgame book, which will wrap up the entirety of the High Republic book storytelling that they've been doing, will be called Trials of the Jedi by Charles Soule, who of course wrote the first book, Light of the Jedi, back in 2021. Another YA book called Tears of the Nameless will be from George Mann. Into the Light by Claudia Gray will be the final young adult novel of the High Republic Initiative. Beware the Nameless by Zoraida Cordova will be a middle grade reader. A Valiant Vow by Justina Ireland will be the final middle grade reader. And there will be another book or title to be revealed very soon that will kick off Wave 1 of Phase 3 very soon. It could be an event book of some kind. It could be an audio drama. Who knows? The sky's the limit. I'm looking forward to it. They also decided they're going to shift the release schedule so that there is more space in between releases to allow for people to catch up with previous High Republic books as the series gets more and more fans. I mean, they got almost 3,500 people into that room. A lot of High Republic cosplay going on at the same time. Can't beat it, folks. The High Republic, Light and Life, it is continuing to be some of the greatest Star Wars storytelling right now. And if you're not a part of it, now's the time to hop on. Go pick up Light of the Jedi. Find your way into the High Republic, because it's going to become more pivotal to the Star Wars galaxy as things like the Acolyte, which are set in the waning days of the High Republic, come out. And of course, they showed Leslie Headland come out on stage for this High Republic panel, and she brought out some news that Rebecca Henderson, the actress, is playing Vernestra Rwoh in the Acolyte. Vernestra Rwoh, of course, is a pivotal character in these High Republic books thus far, and is one of the youngest, and is the youngest to be awarded the rank of Jedi Master. She has a Padawan already, Imri, who's another great character. And she has a whip lightsaber, a purple whip lightsaber. Give me that in the Acolyte. Also, it's set like 100 years later, so what's an older Vernestra Rwoh like? What has happened over the last 100 years? What has she seen? How do the Jedi become dogmatic? Give me the answers now. I mean, they don't have to. I'm thrilled to see it when it comes out. So don't get me wrong. I can't wait for this. So that was the High Republic panel. And there was, of course, the 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi panel, which brought out great folks like Ming-Na Wen to host it. Mark Hamill sent in a video. Harrison Ford sent in a nice video. Rob Bredow from ILM, Neil Scanlon from the Creature Shop, Doug Chang was all there talking about the legacy of Return of the Jedi. We got to see some early previs from Return of the Jedi with the video cassette decks and action figures, and they tied it to how we do previs now for the Kelvin Beck escape sequence from The Mandalorian. Anthony Daniels, Warwick Davis, Ian McDiarmid, and Billy D. Williams all came out on stage, and they just had a lot of fun talking about this pivotal movie of the Star Wars saga, that climactic final chapter of the original trilogy that sums it all up in a nice way. Also, they announced that it's coming back to theaters for a limited run. So if you're looking to go see Return of the Jedi, April 28th, that week, you got your chance. Go find a theater closest to you that'll be showing it, and you can see it at your local cinema. A Creature Cantina panel also took place on Saturday, and finally they did a Clone Wars 15th anniversary panel, which the big announcement from that was that Tales of the Jedi, that wonderful series that came out in October of this past year, in 2022, will be coming back for a second season. So look for more stories in the Star Wars universe from our animated folks as they continue on. And that moves us on over to Sunday, which of course had a variety of different panels throughout the day. Starting, of course, with the Villains of the Sequel Trilogy panel, which was able to be streamed to my surprise. I didn't think that they'd be showing any of the big panels throughout the entire weekend, or else when I say quote unquote big panels, I mean the first panels of the day. But we actually got to see on Sunday and Monday, the two big panels. So that includes the Villains of the Sequel Trilogy and the Bad Batch panel. When they say Villains of the Sequel Trilogy, they're talking about, of course, Ian McDiarmid, who is Emperor Palpatine, of course, the villain in Episode 9. Supreme Leader Snoke, played by Andy Serkis, came out on stage. And Gwendolyn Christie, who portrays Captain Phasma in both Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Now, they had great banter on stage. There's no real announcements that came out from that panel. They just talked about their processes of bringing these characters to life. They talked about what it's like to be mocap characters, to be characters that they thought were dead to be brought back, and how they all came. Learning about their character's demise, getting a bit of red in their uniform, particularly at Exegol for the Emperor. I loved how Andy Serkis kind of dove into the level of theorizing about Snoke theories, and they're like, man, that's on a different level. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it was a wild time. It was like wild space out there to be a Star Wars fan. The funny thing that I learned more than anything is that Ian McDiarmid evidently almost wasn't going to be the Emperor, which is something I didn't know about before. They originally cast another person who they used glass contact lenses to get the yellow eyes, the Sith eyes, and I guess this actor couldn't hack it. He couldn't with his eyes, he couldn't utilize them or wear them to the extent that they needed to. So that's what brought in Ian McDiarmid. And of course, the rest is history. We have the Emperor cackle that he can still do. He has just that wonderful pep in his step about being the Emperor and portraying his character throughout super, all these different mediums that have come out over the last couple of years. Of course, I rewatched the finale of Rebels last night, which of course brings out Ian McDiarmid as Emperor Palpatine, in that he's in the Bad Batch, he's in all these different things in Star Wars episodes 9, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, all that stuff. It's great. Of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi last year. So there's a lot of different great stuff. They had great chemistry up on stage. They loved talking about Star Wars. You could tell the passion was there. And frankly, something that I noticed about Celebration was it's so nice and refreshing in a lot of ways to see people talk about things that they can talk about. So often they're promoting stuff, and by promoting stuff, they're like a year out or 7 months out from promoting it, or it's like 2 days away and they really can't say anything. And then when it's out, they can talk all they want about, share behind the scenes stories, share about these characters, talk about the fun things that they've been doing with these characters, how they brought it to life, what are some of the stories behind the scenes about all this stuff. I want to know about it. I'm a person that's a junkie that soaks up all of that. So give it to me. And when they're able to do that, it's almost liberating in a way, especially as fans. You get to see their real the real character behind the characters, if you will. And I love seeing that kind of stuff. Additionally, there was an Obi-Wan look back panel, which I absolutely adored. I loved Obi-Wan Kenobi as a series. The fact that they were able to bring out Deborah Chow, Ewan McGregor, Vivian Lyra Blair, Hayden Christensen, and Indira Varma onto the stage to talk about this climactic series once again, to reminisce about it, share some of their favorite scenes. I loved it. And finally, they were able to bring Vivian Lyra Blair on stage to talk about this series because they hadn't been able to. It was a spoiler that Leia was in it to that point. So she wasn't even a part of the lead up marketing materials. So now she finally gets to have her day in the sun, enjoying all the fun stuff that is Star Wars. And I apologize if you can hear the dogs again. I'm sorry, I don't know what they're doing out there. They're having some fun time out there for sure. They're hearing me talk about Star Wars and they're getting excited too. They talked about the secrecy of Obi-Wan, how there were code names on top of code names on top of code names. Hayden Christensen loved being able to play Vader again, to do more with that, to dive into the evolution of the character and to portray some things that were, he didn't really get to portray Vader all that much in the prequel trilogy. And now that he gets to be Vader proper, in the suit, creating the walk, doing the mannerisms, all that, he gets to really explore this character and bridge what we know from episode 3 through A New Hope. And they showed that, they shared, I should say, that the flashback was the first thing that they photographed for the series, and everyone was in awe to see their prequel looks again. They picked up right where they left off, but evidently there were not a lot of stunt doubles used, and both Hayden and Ewan evidently did about 99% of the lightsaber work themselves, which is cool. It's fine. They're able to do what they got to do. And they're just enjoying Star Wars and all that, having a great time, and all that stuff. There was a rousing applause for Moses Ingram, who of course wasn't there, but in there in spirit, and I hope she's able to come to Star Wars Celebration one day and receive the accolades that she has done for Star Wars over the last year. Hayden's favorite scene from the series was the helmet reveal. When the piece of the helmet is broken and they're able to see inside to Anakin. There was a brief hug between Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor afterwards. Of course, they played each person's favorite scene on stage. Hayden talked about understanding the duality of Vader and Anakin, the struggle of identity. And this is something that I hope will get explored more in future content. That I'm hoping Hayden, I'm manifesting it. I'm manifesting that Hayden is involved more in Star Wars in the future. Ewan's favorite scene was the final one between Leia and Obi-Wan that gives him peace and purpose, and it got him emotional too on stage. Ewan McGregor, to close out the panel, said, "It was the right time to come back to do it again for me. The Star Wars part of my life is back and it feels really good. And hopefully someone might think we should do some more." I'm one of those people. If we never get any more Obi-Wan Kenobi content, so be it. It's a great bookend to that. It does a wonderful job connecting the character to what we see in A New Hope, to what we see in Star Wars Rebels, from what we saw in Episode 3. That through line is there for me, but if they want to, there is an avenue, I think, to explore more stories in this world. The whole Qui-Gon of it all. Learning to be a Force ghost, expanding upon the mythology of that aspect of Star Wars is certainly an avenue they could take. I think they could explore Vader more this time. I'd be all for it. Sign me up for it. Now, who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but for my money, give me all the anything that ties to the prequel era. I'm here to support it. I'm here to love it. I think that Obi-Wan Kenobi was just absolutely fantastic, and I want to see these actors back again. I don't want to say goodbye to them anytime soon. Let's see what the story can hold here. Sign me up for it. It was great. Now, of course, later in the day, the Parks panel was live streamed. Of course, Disney Parks has been an integral part of Star Wars over the last couple of years as Galaxy's Edge has opened up. Star Tours has gotten some updates, and this panel did not disappoint in terms of some announcements. Now, I know Galaxy's Edge has been a hot topic for perhaps Disneyland Paris, and maybe this would have been the opportunity for them to announce if give some more clarity, frankly, to that park. And if it is going to be getting a Galaxy's Edge anytime soon. None of that came from the panel, though. But our friends Scott Trowbridge, Matt Martin, Ann Morrow, and Asa Kalama came out and really did a mic drop with some big details that will be coming out from the parks universe and going to Batuu for a lot of people. So they announced that the High Republic Adventures, the new, not the High Republic Adventures, but the Young Jedi Adventures that is set during the High Republic, the new animated series that's coming out on Disney Plus and Disney Junior on May 4th. In some of the episodes, those characters will be going to Batuu. So we'll be able to see Galaxy's Edge for the first time in animation, in some type of Star Wars storytelling that is not the actual parks or a comic or a book. Hey-o, it's finally happening, folks. Very excited to see that come to play. And I know people got to see some episodes of the High Republic Adventures live at Celebration, and they loved it. They loved it. So I got nothing but positive praise for this show so far. I'm looking forward to seeing it for myself on May 4th. So look out for more information on that as I cover it. New music from Oga's Cantina, DJ Rex. There's going to be a volume 2, which is already out. If you go on it on Spotify or Apple Music, just search Galaxy's Edge music or DJ Rex's playlist number 2. You'll be able to find it. I listened to a few songs today, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. It transported me right back to being at Oga's Cantina and to hear our sweet boy DJ Rex playing with a blue milk in hand, eating my cookie, just enjoying being a part of Star Wars and living out my Star Wars adventure, which is exactly what you get at Galaxy's Edge. I cannot stress enough for folks who are fans of Star Wars, even casual fans, remote fans, all that stuff. Anybody that's close to being a fan of Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge is a home for you. It's a haven. It's a safe place where you can have your own Star Wars story, where you can be anything you want. You can be a part of the First Order. You can be a part of the Resistance. Vi Marati's there. Rey's there. Kylo Ren's there. Have fun. You can even hang out with the Mandalorian if you want, and Grogu. Perhaps Boba Fett and Fennec Shand will be walking around too. Can't beat it. Can't beat it, folks. More new characters, frankly, are even coming to Galaxy's Edge. They wouldn't announce who yet, but they did say that more new characters are coming. In addition to music, Gaia, who is the celebrity performer on the Galactic Star Cruiser, the Star Wars Experience, the 2-day, 2-night Star Wars experience that you can have at Walt Disney World Resort, they said that her music is going to be available on May 4th, too. On your streaming platforms, your Spotify's, your Apple Music. So be sure to support that on May 4th as well, as Star Wars Day is just around the corner. Furthermore, Scott Trowbridge even announced that a vinyl copy of Gaia's music will be available very soon. I'm a vinyl music collector myself, so I cannot wait to get my hands on that product and add it to my vinyl collection. Furthermore, those that were at the panel were able to take home Gaia's poster, a poster for Gaia, which they did in collaboration with a famous rock and roll poster artist. From what they showed on the live stream stage, not the live stream, but from the actual panel itself, it looked incredible. I was a big fan of what they were able to put together. It looked very, very 70s inspired for sure. For sure. A little Grateful Dead, mostly to me. I thought it was rocking. A little bit of Aerosmith too. Kind of mixed that together, and you got Gaia's poster. The big takeaway, I will say, from this panel is that more destinations are coming to Star Wars. Yes, more destinations are coming to Star Wars, but more specifically, more destinations are coming to Star Tours. Star Tours, the incredible ride at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, a lot of different parks around the world, is going to be getting another update with new planets, new experiences, which means every time you ride Star Tours, it's going to be a brand new experience. And I love Star Tours. I can't wait to see the planets that they go to. They couldn't even announce what places they are going to, because we haven't even seen them yet. Let that sink in. All the news stories that are coming out very soon here: The Acolyte, Skeleton Crew, finishing up The Mandalorian season 3, Ahsoka. Those places that are soon to be seen are going to be, some of them are going to be included in the new Star Tours update, which is going to be amazing. Amazing, everybody. Whew. So yeah, a lot of stuff happened on the live stage as well. Of course, it's probably some of the big things. The biggest takeaway from the live stage was that Stig Asmussen, the director for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, brought out Cameron Monaghan, of course, the main character, Cal Kestis, for the show, for the game, which comes out at the end of April here. And they showcased the final gameplay trailer, which of course I've got queued up here. And in just a few seconds here, I'm going to hit play and I'm going to react to it. So if you want to pull it up, I'm on EA Star Wars' YouTube page. I've got Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the final gameplay trailer. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm hitting play. It's ready. Wow, this game engine is unreal. Look at these stormtroopers. This game looks incredible. There's Seer. Look at that action. Oh my gosh, what a creature. Look at BD1. Fresh off his debut in the Book of Boba Fett. Man, this game is brutal. Look at that. He just shoved that stormtrooper right into a TIE fighter. Looks like we're going to Coruscant. We're going to see the Jedi Temple again. We're in the dark times, of course. Yeah. We've got a few allies. I don't know who that ally is, but the Rancor. You get to fight a Rancor. Man. Wow. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What is going on with this game? This just looks like so metal. I cannot wait to get my hands on this thing. Some battle droids, some droidicas. Wow. Wow. That's all I'm gonna just keep saying. Wow. Look at that. Is that a High Republic Jedi based on his robes? Man, you get to knock some stormtroopers in the face. April 28th, 2023. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. And you might even get to wear a poncho in the game, as they joked about on the live stage so often there. I mean, just come on. The Empire's in more control now than ever. Evidently, Cal has broken off from the Mantis crew. Cameron Monaghan shared that he's grown more distrustful, more wary, but he's given a spark of hope, and that drives forward the story. Yeah, that is incredible. I'm still losing it at that biker scout trooper going into the TIE fighter, fighting a Rancor. This is just heavy metal at full display here, folks. Yeah, I can't wait for this game. I definitely need to do some gameplay. We'll have to do some, a play and talk or something like that I did before with Lego Star Wars. And I hope that you will all come out and enjoy that fun ride. Get the game. This is gonna be a fun time. Fun time for Star Wars in the gaming world. I know it's been a while, over a year now since we got a Star Wars game, since the Lego Star Wars. So this is the right time. We're ready. Let's continue the story. Let's go. To close out some of the big panels and the information that I got from this Sunday panel, or day of Star Wars Celebration, was the publishing panel, which of course a lot of the news was about the 4th anniversary Return of the Jedi from a certain point of view book, which you know that Kristen Baver will be doing a Cy Snoodles story for that. Adam Christopher, who did the incredible story Shadow of the Sith, will also be doing a story in that book on General Pryde called The Steadfast Soldier. Additionally, an Art of Star Wars Jedi Survivor will be coming out very soon. Another cookbook was announced at this panel, and Tales from the Death Star, a comic book that is kind of a horror-based comic story, will come out in the same vein of Tales from the Jabba's Palace and Tales from Darth Vader's Castle, written by Kevin Scott. So that concludes all of Sunday. Again, a lot of great panels that came out throughout the course of the day. A lot of fun things. I saw a lot of great cosplay, of course. And that leads us to our final day of Star Wars Celebration, which closed out, yes, Monday, April 10th, which started off with the Bad Batch panel. Host Amy Ratcliffe brought out Brad Rao, Jennifer Corbett, Athena Portillo, D. Bradley Baker, and Michelle Ang to talk about the close of Bad Batch Season 2 and also to give a hint to where we're going in the future. So they said they wanted to have a break in time from the fall of Tapoka City, saying why there's a kind of like a time gap in between season 1 and season 2. They wanted Omega to feel a part of the crew. So they were leaning into a more comfortable role with the Bad Batch and Star Wars overall in season 2 with this group, this team. And of course, they talked about their relationships a lot. D. Bradley Baker said that Omega's earned her place as a trusted member of the team in season 2, and it was delicious to explore the personal relationships with each of them. D. Bradley Baker shared that The Outpost was his favorite episode from season 2, which I think was a really astounding episode. He said that Crosshair is the most interesting clone for him to voice. He said or Jennifer Corbett then added, Crosshair is relatable because everyone has a friend who can't admit when they're wrong or when they've made a mistake. I think that's a really great way to put it. Season 2, in many ways, also Jennifer Corbett said, is how the clones are being treated by the Empire versus how the clones treat each other, which is really what this divisiveness that we're seeing is. Even Crosshair got to a point where, in that Outpost episode, where he's willing to shoot Lieutenant Nolan for looking at them as cannon fodder, for looking at them as less than humans, for looking at them as property, right? That's what Hemlock says, like they're Imperial property. They'll submit to anything. No, it doesn't work that way, boss. They're people. They're fighting for their own rights. They're fighting for their livelihoods. They're fighting for existing at this point. It was just incredible. I love this panel so much. They did such a great job breaking down the season overall. Season 2, they said that the shadow of darkness is hanging over the Bad Batch. There's the Empire. There's Sid, of course, who betrays them at the end of season 2. And they said that this is Hunter's worst nightmare. There's this dichotomy that they noted of good soldiers follow orders, and it breaks to the tech situation where when have we ever followed orders? Wow, that's really powerful when you think about it, folks. It's a great, profound lesson and meaning to that, and it's really beautiful, as D. Bradley Baker put. Okay, everybody, we're at the big moment of this panel now. Where are we going? Well, as I surmised in a recent episode of Forest Ghost Conversations with Mrs. Forest Ghost Conversations, Elise King, our Bad Batch rundown, I suggested that perhaps season 3 would be the final season of Star Wars: The Bad Batch. And that was confirmed. It'll be coming for a third and final season on Disney Plus in 2024. And I gotta imagine it's probably somewhere after the Skeleton Crew again. So if you're looking, probably a January release similar to what they did this past year, if you're looking at the timeline for Star Wars and what's upcoming. For those in the room, they got to see some exclusive footage, and it was really lethargic. It was comforting, frankly, to see such a group of people supporting Star Wars animation like this on this day, especially because of the Visions panel coming up soon. And to geek out all about the incredibleness that is The Bad Batch. A story that is close to my heart for what it means to me and my family. For what it does as a continuation of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which again is a lot of people's entryways into Star Wars at this point in the fandom. And for the unique aspects of family and storytelling that it tells. Sign me up. I can't wait to have one last ride with these great characters and to see how their story plays out. Now, I did mention this is basically the animation panel of the day, or the animation day for Star Wars, where the Star Wars Visions Volume 2 got its own panel. Amy Ratcliffe again hosted this one with James Waugh, Jackie Lopez, Josh Grimes coming out on stage and talking about Vision 1 with storytelling perspectives that could only come from the Japanese community. And they wanted to take that approach again with Volume 2 here, where they were telling specific takes of Star Wars that can only come from a specific culture and upbringing. So they said, what else can we get from around the globe? So we get a mix of all these different things: animation, CGI, stop motion, CGI with stop motion. Some of the cast for Star Wars Visions include great alums of Star Wars and beyond: Cedric Yarborough, Daveed Diggs, Dennis Lawson, Cynthia Erivo, Angelica Huston, Daniel Day Kim, Steve Blum. I wanted to make sure that I wrote out all of the folks that came out on stage for the 9 episodes of Star Wars Visions Volume 2. So bear with me as I read out all of them, as well as the title of their episodes. So Rodrigo Blas, who's the writer-director of the story Sith, which came from El Guerri Studios. Paul Young, who's the director of Screecher's Reach, which is from the studio Cartoon Saloon. Gabriel Osario, who's the writer and director of In the Stars by Punk Robot. Magdalena Osinska, who's the director for I Am Your Mother, which is from Aardman, one of my favorite animation studios, because I'm a big fan of Wallace and Gromit. I love that animation style. I love that work. Can't wait to see that one for sure. Park Hyung Gwon, who's the director for Journey to the Dark Head by Ariz Studio. Julian Chang, who's the director for The Spy Dancer from Studio La Cachette. Milind D. Shinda, who's the executive producer, film developed by, and founder of 88 Pictures for The Bandits of Golok from, of course, 88 Pictures. There's Leandre Thomas, who is from Lucasfilm, who's the writer, director, and executive producer, alongside Arthel Ism, who's the founder of Dart Stagio, who, of course, did The Pit from Dart Stagio. Nadia Darius, who's the co-director, and Daniel Clark was also the co-director for Owl Song from Triggerfish. And that was the last of the 9 episodes. A poster was given to those in attendance, and they also got to see the first episode of Volume 2 live, which was for I Am Your Mother. That was directed by Magdalena Osinska from Aardman. For those of us at home as well, we got to see the Volume 2 trailer, which I'm going to, again, as the final time for this episode, play it and do a live reaction. Again, if you want to follow along at home, pull up Star Wars Visions Volume 2 official trailer from Disney Plus, and get ready. Pause this episode now if you want to pull it up on your own and watch along together. If you want to hit play at the same time, get ready. So I'm going to do so in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Going on. I love the red lightsaber. I mean, that animation itself on that lightsaber is absolutely gorgeous, if you ask me. Woo. Volume 2 looks to be even expansive, more creative, more, this is yellow lightsaber. Let's go. It's a samurai blade. What's going on here, folks? I can't wait to see this. Look at that animation style. Look at it. It's so diverse. 9 Celebrate Animation Studios for sure. I mean, each one is so uniquely different from the other in terms of its animation style. And I can't even imagine how they're just going to be playing in the Star Wars sandbox just a little bit. Look at that. That's Aardman. Oh, look at that. A Wookiee. Oh my gosh. That is incredible. Look at that. That looks so good. I don't even know who these characters' names are, but I can't wait to know them. To get to see these stories play out and to just appreciate this great aspects of Star Wars that we're getting here. Oh, I can't. I don't even. I'm at a loss of words, folks. I know I've just spoken for almost like an hour and a half here on this podcast episode, purely about all the stuff from Star Wars Celebration. And this trailer, out of all of them, is just leaving me utterly speechless here in terms of the beauty of the animation, the stories that they're presenting here, the variety of different tales. This just looks massively expansive. Sign me up for this. Yeah. This definitely may be, pushing me to getting like if they do a volume 2 art of book, absolutely may need to check that one out for sure. I can't sleep on that one if that does come out indeed. Wow. Visions 2, May 4th, everybody. Star Wars on May 4th, May the 4th, Star Wars Day is just going to knock our socks off with Visions Volume 2. Of course, all the announcements of, they generally do some news drops that day. Star Wars merch goes on sale. Young Jedi Adventures also comes out that day. Just the week prior, Survivor, the video game, will come out. Whew. That is incredible. I can't wait. I know Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations loved looking at that trailer yesterday too, which she finally got to see for the first time. Can't wait. Can't wait. Additionally, Marvel dropped some more news at a panel that same day, about the Dark Droids event that they've been teasing, which will come out in August. It'll be a crossover event from the mainline Star Wars, Darth Vader, and Aphra, I think Bounty Hunters too. So be on the lookout for that one. There's an incredible Doug Chiang panel to close out Star Wars Celebration in terms of the panels itself, about designing Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Mandalorian Season 3. I could spend all day talking about this episode or this panel. I love hearing Doug Chiang talk about his concept art and the work done by his team and how they interpret things, especially interpreting like the designs to translate the Grand Inquisitor to live action. They thought backwards on that one. They did work on creating Alderaan to make it idealistic, and Wyoming became an inspiration for them. They wanted Leia to have a bright 10-year-old bedroom that was creative and messy to mirror her intellectual energy. Lola was created as a puppet, completely functional. The Hong Kong aesthetics that they used and incorporated for Dayu, the congestion and chaos that you could smell the garbage and literally feel the humidity. I mean, this is stuff that really came through in Obi-Wan Kenobi. They literally did 5,000 concept arts produced for each show, Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Mandalorian Season 3. That's a lot. I think he said it's like, we did enough for like 4 movies worth because of this, or something like that. And, they did a lot of work. Yeah, the equivalent work was done for 4 feature films for these 2 series. I'm looking through my notes here. I loved it. There were, modifications, of course, to some stuff, but a lot of it's for, exactly how Respawn did it for the Fortress into Inquisitorius. They figured out the stages of Vader's assembly. A lot of Ray Harryhausen inspiration for The Mandalorian, especially that refuge planet that they've featured earlier on in the season. And this is a way for them to bridge prequel designs to the original trilogy, but also to update them and respect the past while pushing forward in the future. And I loved absolutely everything that Doug Chiang was putting down on that panel. I may have to rewatch it a couple times because it was just so magical. And again, Doug Chiang is just such a wonderful presenter. I love all the stuff that he does for Star Wars, the concept art, the work that he does, being a bastion of positivity for the Star Wars fandom. Can't say enough great goodwill about Doug Chiang and what he brings to the Star Wars galaxy. And finally, in closing out Star Wars Celebration and the big news, the question was, when are we going to do this again? And the answer is 2025, from April 18th, 19th, and 20th of that year. And where? None other than Japan. They're going to Tokyo, folks. Yes, it's been since 2008 that Japan has hosted a Star Wars Celebration, and they're going back. 2 international cons in a row. So if you're planning on going, save up your pennies now. I don't know if I'll be going or not. It's probably leaning more towards no than to yes. In fact, it's probably less than 5% chance of a yes at this point. But who's to say? You never know. You never know, folks. I believe that the convention center is pretty massive from what they've shared so far. More details, of course, are on StarWars.com. If you want to find out where exactly the convention is taking place, start planning your Tokyo trips now, looking at hotels around the area, perhaps taking a trip to Disneyland Tokyo or Tokyo Disneyland. I don't know exactly what it's called at this point. there it is. You got 2 years to save up for this. A D23 is probably taking place next year, which maybe I might be going to instead, since that is a bit closer to home. Who knows? The sky's the limit. We'll see what happens. The force is always always in motion. The future is, as Yoda said. We'll have to see where the world takes us at that point in time. It's too early to plan, frankly, for this stuff for me. So we'll see. I'm just trying to finish out grad school and do some other things and figure all the stuff out that we're doing in life at this point. So that is it, everybody. That was all 11 pages of notes that I took for Star Wars Celebration 2023. We made it. We reacted to trailers. We had a fun time doing it all. And frankly, I'd do it all over again if I could. I had so much fun having great conversations with everybody online, interacting about Star Wars, talking about the goodness that is, celebrating the positivity first and foremost. Star Wars is a great place. It's a great place for inclusivity, for inclusion, for community, and I'm glad that I found that with all of you as well. So with that, everybody, that's all I had for this episode. You made it through. I made it through. We're here an hour and a half later, but we're having fun. We're celebrating Star Wars. We're geeking out about all the great announcements that we got over this past weekend and looking ahead towards the future of Star Wars while, again, celebrating and respecting the past. So a lot of new episodes of Force Ghost Conversations coming your way because of all these great announcements. I can't wait. I hope you're excited at home just as much as I am. And again, if you want to continue the conversation with us, we can be found on all the social media channels, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Hive, TikTok. I don't know if I said it all at this point. Just search Force Ghost Conversations and we'll be there in some capacity. Also, to help continue to grow the show, we definitely ask that you rate and subscribe to the podcast on your site of choice. We love continuing to grow the seats around the proverbial campfire. So if you give us a shout out on our social channels, we really appreciate you doing that. And also tell your friends, family, coworkers, colleagues, all that stuff. If they're into Star Wars, they have a seat at our table. So let's continue to grow the seats around the campfire for that. And again, if you want to support the podcast through other means, we do have a Patreon site. For as little as $1 a month, you can get access to a ton of different Force Ghost Conversations goodies, such as extra episodes, an invitation to ask questions that will be answered on the air, to have your name read on the air itself. So just go search out our Patreon page. Of course, a link is in the episode description here. And you can see if there's a tier that you like the best, that best fits how you'd like to support the show. Also, we have a TeePublic store if you want to wear Force Ghost Conversations merchandise out in the wild. We have our Willow-inspired logo t-shirt. We have our Indiana Jones-inspired logo t-shirt. We also have our Star Wars-inspired logo t-shirt as well. And those are all very popular items on our TeePublic store page, so be sure to check those out if you're looking to expand your wardrobe and want to wear Force Ghost Conversations out and about. So with that, folks, we'll be back on Sunday with a new episode talking about this new episode from The Mandalorian, which came out today. I saw it before I hit record on this podcast, and it is a powerful one. It is incredible. I can't wait to talk about it with you all here on the podcast. So get ready for that. It'll be dropping in your podcast feeds on Sunday. But until then, folks, hope you're doing well. Happy Star Wars celebration. May the Force be with you. Take care.